All right, we're back. Sergio Mora is here. We'll get to him in just a couple of minutes. A lot to get into with Sergio, but I want to briefly at the top of the show address the big story of this past week, and that was the arrest of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who was taken into custody by ICE agents near his home in Studio City, California. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security said Chavez Jr. is believed to be an affiliate of the Sinaloa cartel, which has been designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S. government. They go on to outline crimes Chavez Jr. has committed in the U.S., including a weapons charge from January of 2024, and state that Chavez has an active arrest warrant in Mexico. To discuss this topic, I want to bring in Lance Pugmire, longtime investigative journalist, now with BoxingScene.com, good friend of the pod as well. Lance, you've been writing about this over the course of the last few days, as I have been talking to people involved with this case, as I have. Where do we stand with all this as far as you know? What does your reporting say?
I mean, even some of the people closest to Chavez Jr. right now cannot say exactly where he's at, which is a little bit alarming. I mean, it's very mysterious, Chris, on a lot of levels. Obviously, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was permitted and allowed to fight. He was allowed to conduct his entire training camp in Southern California. I mean, whatever the ICE position is and the Homeland Security position is, they knew exactly where this guy was in all of these days leading up to the fight, including, the weigh-in and fight night itself. And they didn't move until the money had been generated. So from that standpoint, it's a little bit alarming, a little bit suspicious, a little bit troubling, to be honest with you. There are the people close to Chavez, and I can understand a lot of people saying, of course, what are they going to say? But they say, look, all of this connection to El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel is just, fabrication, but based on some of the personal relationships that he's engaged in, and nothing more. There was a report by a Mexican, what I've been told, I don't speak Spanish. It's one of the biggest sins that we have in covering this sport. Um, but my friend Ricardo Solis from Boxing Scene told me that one of the most reputed Mexican media entities has put out a report that Chavez actually was involved in some shenanigans where the Sinaloa cartel would be punishing people, and they'd bring him in and they'd hang people up and they'd have him punch bodies of these people. Those were some of the crimes that took place in Mexico. So the truth is very, very elusive, and it's unclear as to what exactly he did, what his ultimate crime was. There are many, many Mexican fighters who are over here working, preparing for fights and engaging in fights. And why Chavez Jr., a very high profile athlete, was singled out and pointed out by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security remains a major question right now at this hour.
So the connection that Chavez has to El Chapo and the Mexican cartel, at least the family connection, is his wife Frida. His wife Frida had a relationship with the late son of El Chapo. Chavez is now married to her. They have 2 children. She is an American citizen. She was who he put on his application for lawful entry or lawful status in the U.S. About a year or so ago. And according to the government, it's been like the last 6 months that status has been under review, and it was June 27th, which is the day before the fight against Jake Paul, where the government says that's when he was stamped as someone that needed to be, expedited out of the country. The question I have is one you just raised there, like, what's this weird timing? That's very, very, very odd timing. I'm not ready to take a position on what he did or didn't do. The president of Mexico has come out and she has said that she hopes he serves jail time in Mexico for these alleged charges. Like, they could be real, they could not. I've talked to Michael Goldstein, the lawyer of Chavez Jr., who insists that this is all just kind of one big, conspiracy that, even like one of the crimes that the government listed that Chavez was, quote, convicted of, the weapons charge from January of 2024. Michael Goldstein said he wasn't convicted of that. He had some diversion program. He got some mental health help, and he has been, completely in compliance with the courts on that. So the Chavez team takes exception to what the accusations are, what they say Chavez has been involved with. I don't know what's true and what's not true at that point. I again do think the timing of it is very, very suspicious. Like if he had, they had a very active fight week in Anaheim. It was open workouts, it was press conference, it was weigh-in, it was fight day. There were a lot of opportunities for Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. to be taken into custody. And it sure looks like the government said, you know what, let's let this event in Anaheim go through. Let's let this happen, and then we'll pick up Chavez in Studio City. I think the Chavez team, at the very least, knew there was something going on with his paperwork, like that there was some issue there. I don't know that they knew he was going to get scooped up by 25-plus ICE members outside of his home in Studio City, but I think they knew something was going on there. But again, the question is, like, I guess they did Chavez a favor, too. He's going to wind up getting paid off that Jake Paul fight. They did Jake Paul, everybody involved in the event, a favor by letting that fight, ultimately go through. But the timing of it, Lance, is what struck me as the most odd. If he was, stamped for, pickup and deportation on the 27th, why was he not picked up on the 27th? You knew exactly where he was at that time.
Yeah. I mean, it reeks right now, Chris, honestly, at this hour. I mean, there's things that obviously we don't know everything about, but right now it reeks of selective justice. Like you said, the ability that they had, and even the crimes that they listed in his rap sheet. We know that Chavez Jr. is a guy that has struggled with addiction, right? So the crimes are have to do with driving under the influence or possessing weapons. I can remember a couple of years ago, I was pretty outraged by all the gun violence in this country. And I said, who probably has some good opinions on this are boxers, because they don't need guns. They can protect themselves with their hands, as all men should be able to do, right? And so I went around to boxers. I started talking to them. They all carry weapons. Deontay Wilder, Mikey Garcia, it's like they all have weapons. And so Chavez carrying a weapon is nothing new, among boxers. So I guess it's a crime. Yes, it's a crime what they've done. But to say it's some kind of rap sheet and a major, almost like this gangland activity that they're saying he's connected to, it falls far short of that right now. And so I think for those who have covered this guy's career and covered this man and who have covered his father, there's many, many more answers that need to be revealed at this point.
I guess now the question is, does the family of Chavez Jr. know where he is? When is he getting deported? What charges is he going to face in Mexico? And look, I don't know. As of Friday, I was told that Chavez's family doesn't know where he is, exactly where he is. I think he's due in court this week for something that is going on there. So I will probably get some, while people are listening to the show, there'll probably be some updates as that happens. But it sounds like he's out. Like they're going to deport him. He's going to go down to Mexico. And I'll be very curious to see what charges he faces down there, and what kind of punishment there will be. Because again, the president of Mexico came out at a briefing and said, hey, we expect him to serve jail time down there. I mean, I don't know if you have any insight into the next steps in all this, but
really don't. Everything that I have is really based on before the bout occurred, before the arrest occurred. And look, I mean, I was talking to a colleague of mine who covered the sport and has covered Chavez, and she felt a little bit uncomfortable about asking the question about, because ICE has raised its head at sporting events and major events throughout Southern California. Remember, they tried to get into Dodger Stadium. Apparently, they were met by some resistance there. So, I mean, call me a skeptic, negative person, whatever you want to say, but it made a lot of sense that ICE would surround the first major boxing event in Southern California in quite a while for Jake Paul and Chavez. So I asked the question at the news conference to Nikisa Bidarian and Jake Paul, do you expect ICE agents to ring the Honda Center on Saturday? And Nikisa said, we don't want to answer that question. We don't want to get political right now. Well, it's like, certainly you got political by the end of the day, right? I mean, the fact that ICE has inserted this thing, and Jake Paul, I think Jake Paul had some reaction, basically patting the ICE agents on the back for the job that they did. Look, it's not a good look, I don't think, on the federal government. It looks like preferential treatment, but let's see what happens, and let's see where the facts lead us, like you said, in the days and weeks to come.
Yeah, and again, Chavez Jr. certainly could be worthy of arrest, worthy of deportation. According to the story in the Associated Press, which covered the president of Mexico's press conference, she said that Mexico first issued an arrest order for Chavez in 2023 after an investigation began in 2019. But they hadn't acted on it because he had mostly been in the United States, living in Southern California, training when he does fight in Southern California. She also said she did not know if Chavez had links to the Sinaloa cartel. But at the very least, Lance, a very unexpected twist to the life and times of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who has had a lot going on in his life, from the very beginning all the way up until where we are right now. Lance, I'll be reading your stuff over the course of the week. I'm sure you'll be reporting on this story extensively as well over at boxingscene.com. Thanks for a few minutes joining me.
No problem, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on.